So let's begin. Let's begin with a little meditation again on tranquil abiding, and we'll begin by visualizing Lord Buddha in the space in front. The first, sit comfortably with your spine erect in as close an approximation to the sevenfold posture of Vairochana that you can. And as you're waiting for the meditation to begin, watch your breathing for a few cycles to try to settle your mind. Very tightly place your mindfulness on the respiration. Let go of all other thoughts and worries, plans, fantasies, and so forth. Then mentally recollect or reconstruct a visualization of our founder, our teacher, Lord Buddha, in the space in front of you, about the level of your brows, one body length away, as small as possible, maybe about the size of your outstretched hand, or smaller. First, think of the whole visualization as much as you can, if you've done it before, from the lion-supported throne to the crown protuberance, sort of several elements, the lions, the throne, the seats, the Buddha, robes, his head, and so forth, hair. And then analyze it from the bottom. Lion-supported throne, either one lion in each corner or two lions. There are two different traditions. Snow lions, white snow lions, holding a golden throne emblazoned with a crossed vajra, upon which is a lotus cushion, and upon that are sun and moon cushions. Seated upon that is the Buddha himself in the guise of a monk, the robes of a monk, saffron-colored. His legs are in the Vajra asana, the crossed leg position, full lotus, sometimes called in the West. The soles of his feet are upturned, emblazoned with the Dharma chakra. His right hand is over his right knee, the fingers pointing down, touching the earth in the earth touching mudra. His left hand is at his navel, holding a begging bowl filled with nectar. His hand is actually left hand is in the posture of meditative equipoise there, as though if the other hand were joined, it would be as we're holding our hands now. His upper robe covers his left shoulder, his right shoulder is bare. His golden-hued body is like a hologram, an emanation of light. Very beautiful, well-proportioned, a very compassionate-looking face, ruby red lips, long, compassionate eyes. Between his brows, a curl of white hair, long earlobes, very large ears from having heard the Dharma, sought it out in previous lives. The hair on the crown of his head in tufts, each circling clockwise. And at the very crown, a protuberance called the Ushnisha, one of the major signs. The reason that we place our heads at the crown of our head when we make prostrations, particularly to create the karma to one day manifest that kind of sign. His eyes are actually looking at us as though alive. Once you scanned like that, if you'd like to scan downwards, that's okay. This is the analytical part. Once you have some degree of clarity that you're used to, hold that single-pointedly. It will become more and more as time goes on. Just be satisfied with what you got. And with the mental factor alertness or introspection, watch whether your mind is leaving that object or forgetting it. If it does forget it, try to recall it so that you have something that you're concentrating on, not just being aimless. If you lose it for a minute, bring your attention back to that object. Let your mindfulness be aware that you have excitedly moved to another object, whether it be a song or another thought. In the center of Buddha's chest, at the level of his heart chakra, is another cushion, moon cushion, upon which are the syllables of his mantra, standing upright, going clockwise. They face inward. Tayata Om Muni Muni Maha Munaya Soha. In the center of them, standing erect in the very middle, is the seed syllable Mum for Muni. And imagine as we recite the mantra together, light rays emanate out throughout all space, touching us and all sentient beings, purifying negativities, and also bringing the blessings of the realizations of the Buddha, good heart, wisdom, especially tranquil abiding and penetrative insight, special insight. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai Saha. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai Saha. Tayata Om Mune Mune Maha Munai Swaha. imagine, feel yourself bathed in the purifying and blessing light of the Buddha's omniscient mind. Likewise, all sentient beings, having invoked Buddha's blessing, they all relish in that. They're all bathed in that light. And think, in order to better understand the stages of developing tranquil abiding, I'm going to participate in the question and answer session today, discussion, just as I will, for the benefit of others, listen to the discourse of Kyabje, Ribur Rinpoche later. And bring your attention back to present. So, Rinpoche, we were very fortunate. Rinpoche began the section on penetrative insight or special insight last time at the end of the session, but so he finished the section on calm abiding. Let me ask first of all if there are any questions. Anyone have any questions or doubts? Well, that's good. Oh, Don, good.
Just one that I didn't get to ask last week. When it was mentioned that during Shine, say retreat, that we should have the image in our mind at all times except when sleeping or waking up. Can you just talk a little bit more about that, for my understanding of what that means?
I think if you're actually trying to develop tranquil abiding, not just doing a retreat to accumulate merit or to get close to the deity, even then you should, like say for instance, if you're doing a deity retreat, one tries to visualize oneself as the deity even in post-meditation. I don't know if you received instructions like that. But say for instance in the sutra tradition, if you're visualizing Buddha in front of you or some other object, if in the post-meditative session you give that object up completely, it's likened in the teachings to trying to start a fire by rubbing wood. You know how you can rub wood together? Have you ever done that? Were you successful? I tried to do for Lama Osel, when I was teaching Lama Osel in India, I tried to do, and I couldn't get it to work, because I think you need to have some dry wood, and it has to be hard. It's, people that make fire that way know through experience how to do it. And Lama looked very dubious. This was when he was little, like he was about 12 years old or 11 and a half, like, yeah, you say you can make fire that way, but look, you can't do it. So if you were to rub for a long period of time, you start getting some friction and there's some heat building up, and then you stop for a cup of tea, or I don't know what else you'd stop for, meal, take a walk, and you come back, and of course it's cooled off. So the idea here is that if you're trying to develop a continuity of mindfulness of the object, if in the post-meditation session you completely lose the object, is a little bit like that. So indeed, when you're trying to develop tranquil abiding, you try to keep a general idea of that object in mind all the time, even when you finish the session in which you're doing very strict concentration. So I don't know if that helps at all. Yeah.
Does that mean if we've just done the meditation and then we're sitting in a room like this and listening to a discourse, a piece of our mind is maintaining an image, a small Buddha image, body's length, not ahead of us?
I think if you were actually trying to develop Shine, you wouldn't be going to discourse. You would be only doing that. That would be if you're doing other kinds of retreat. If you're doing a Lan Rim retreat or just a a deity retreat where you're collecting mantra and so forth, when I say just, I mean not to the extent that you're trying to develop single-pointed concentration, you might very well go to teachings. Wouldn't necessarily be contradictory. But when you're trying to develop single-pointed concentration, remember the various kinds of conditions that we try to bring together and try to eliminate certain contradictory kind of things. Having many activities and doing other things will prevent that continuity of, in this case, visualization of Buddha, or keep the continuity of whatever your object of meditation from from being successful. So in general, if you're doing a single-pointed concentration retreat, you wouldn't generally leave. You might go to, if you were a monk or nun, you might go to the bi-monthly confession, as His Holiness has said, to help keep your vows renewed. But then you can, that's very easy because you visualize Buddha in front giving you the vow, reading the Vinaya Sutra or whatever. But in general, are you doing Shine retreat now? No, you're just thinking in general.
I'm imagining one.
Okay. Okay. So that's good. You're visualizing a Shine retreat in which you're visualizing Buddha in front. Okay. Anyone else have some question? Yeah.
If you don't have the natural ability when you start out to create visual imagery, to bring up visual imagery in your mind, what's the best way to start developing that ability?
That's a good way of putting it, because some people might think, someone might say, not as skillfully as you, might say, I can't visualize. Sorry, give me something else to do. We can all visualize, but we may be predisposed because of our habit energy to being more visual, and we might call it something else in the West. We might say right brain or left brain, or I'm more visually oriented, or discursively oriented, or whatever. But it's just a matter of familiarization, as is said in so many of the Buddhist teachings and the teachings that we receive so many times, the Shantideva's text on the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. There is nothing that will not become easy if done repeatedly, if familiarized with. Everything, if you familiarize with it, will become clear. So it's a matter of, say for instance, if you wanted to visualize Buddha in front, if you wanted to take that as your object, that's not the only object you use, but that's the one that Rinpoche was recommending to us. You might get various tankas or photographs or statues and look at them, different sides, and sort of close your eyes sometime and try to recall how that looks. Try to find ones that are skillfully constructed by expert crafts people, and then make an amalgam in your mind of your own mental image of that and go through it. There are the lions, and you try to visualize each of the parts, say their feet, their midsection, their arms are holding up the throne, by having looked at a tanka or read a description of how they're standing. Even if you don't have a tanka, sometimes just to have heard that from your teacher, that's what is called the instruction. When the first fault was forgetting the instruction. Second fault, rather. And then the lions, the throne, then the lotus cushions. Try to imagine each of those in succession, and you won't have, if you're not used to that, you won't have a very clear image at first. But the trick, the crucial point is to be satisfied with what you have. When you have when you've gone through it a couple of times, not to keep on saying, well, not perfect yet. I'm not giving up until it's perfect. When you're trying to develop a single point of concentration, you have to have an object, first of all, to practice with. So at first, the object will be perhaps not vivid, not clear. It might just be like a blob, in front. Be satisfied with that and just keep that at first. In successive sessions, as you analyze again, through the power of familiarity, you will get more and more elements in memory, and you will be able to hold it more clearly. So I don't believe it's a matter of that there are some people who can't visualize. It's just a matter of familiarity. Does that help? Okay. Okay. Anyone else have a pressing?
Translation question?
Okay.
I hear
Heaps?
not that one. I hear I'm the translator.
Just joking.
I hear Vipassana said as Vipassana. I heard also Vipassana, and so in one case I hear Dhyana, which to me means vehicle, and the other one I hear Asana, which is posture. And I wonder how it's translated. You have, what's Vipa or Vipash, Yana, or is it Vipa, Asana, Vipassana?
Is it V or Vipassana is Sanskrit. Vipassana is Pali. I might have mentioned before that in Pali they generally don't have conjunct consonants, dissimilar conjunct consonants. Like instead of dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, they have dhamma, D-H-A-M-M-A. So that's one of the reasons that you may see it written in different ways. Sometimes it's written from the Pali, sometimes it's written from the Sanskrit. The sha of Vipassana is sometimes, because the way that it's transliterated into English, sometimes it's just written as S with a line over it. And if you don't know that, if the typist has not put the little diacritic mark that's supposed to mean that it's SH sound, it may look like just S. So this, it's maybe that's a point that you can learn a little bit about, Sanskrit grammar and that. But the meaning is, as we say here, special insight or penetrative insight or higher insight. Laktong. Usually we say insight or seeing. Tongwa means to see in Tibetan. Lakpa. Lakbar means exceedingly or special or higher. It's a modifier that means sort of higher. The V in Vipassana, I think, is that. That's the prefix V in Vipassana. Okay, so Rinpoche, during one of the, either before the class or between the breaks last time, Rinpoche called me over and said, he said he wasn't sure everyone understood the 9 stages, 9 levels, 9 mental abiding. So he said, could I make sure that you felt comfortable with that? Do you remember the 9 stages? Frank?
What section was in the Art Liberation book?
I don't have that book, but it's, I think it is divided up into days. So it's on day 21 that we're last time he began day 22, how to develop special insight. Oh, actually, it goes between days 21 and 22, what we've finished up till now, okay? So, do you remember what these 9 levels refer to? Anyone? Venerable, were you here? No, you weren't here last time, were you?
No, but it refers to the concentration, the ability to hold the object.
So there are 9 levels or states or abidings of the mind in approaching calm abiding that kind of can be distinguished by various factors. You can kind of recognize what level. Anyone here, Keith, are you on the, 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th level? Which level are you on?
I can't count that low.
Okay. Minus, it's minus numbers. We can always go.
I've made the first one.
Have you? Well, even that's quite good. The first level placement means that you found the object. You might say, well, of course they found the object. To find the object means to have a mental image of the object, and that may take some time to, just as, what's your name back there? Joel. Just as Joel was, or some other people were asking. So there, in this text, the way that they're translated is placement was the first level. In that level, you have, on the basis of having heard or read the instructions about how to develop concentration and what object to take, you try to hold that. But for the most part, you're going to be losing the object most of the time. Probably that's where most of us are still at that first level, even if we tried for a little bit to concentrate the mind. It says another characteristic is that you become aware of how easily your mind falls under the influence of distraction and excitation or excitement. So this is the common sometimes experience that people have when they try to concentrate. They say, I have so much more distraction now than I usually have. I better stop doing this. That's because they're approaching that first level, and you start to notice when you're trying to recall one object and keep on it, you notice the mind going. If your intention is not to stay on an object, you don't notice that movement of the mind, right? So the second level is one in which is called continued placement, and there the criterion is that you can keep your mind on the object without being distracted for the time it takes to recite a mala of manis. Not monies. Manis. You know what manis are? Omani Padme Hung. There's sort of Tibetans have shorthand. We have different shorthands in English for things. So for Omani Padme Hung mantra, they say manis. Miksemas are what? The mantra Migme Sewe Terchen Chenrezi, the mantra of Lama Tsongkhapa. So they have different names for different kinds of mantras like that. The three Om mantra and so forth. How long does it take you to recite a mala of Omani Padme Hung? About a minute and a half? Something like that. Okay, so minute and a half, 2 minutes. If you can keep the object without being distracted. Anyone at that level? Dorji, you at that level? Who put their hand up? Come on. Fess up. Darcy? You can keep the object without being distracted for a minute and a half, 2 minutes?
I go 108 seconds.
108 seconds, okay. That's good. You still have discursive thoughts at this stage, it says, but they let up periodically. So it's almost they're getting tired. Your discursive mind is getting tired. One of the things you notice is if you don't feed that discursive mind, if you don't give it energy, it begins to subside. That's one of the important observations you can make in your own experience. If you don't follow the discursive mind, it will be less frequent in rising and less intense when it does occur. Worries and daydreams and so forth, like that. So that's a very important observation to make. Now the third level starts to be something that third and fourth level might be where you might be able to attain these through everyday practice over some months or years. Say if you just practicing every day, but you do something kind of conscientiously. Third level is not out of the question, maybe even the fourth level. But beyond that, maybe you have to do some kind of concentrated retreat to go much further. The third level, renewed placement. As soon as you've lost the object, because now your mindfulness, your memory of the object is getting quite good, and your alertness is quite strong, as soon as you lost the object, you can recall the main object again quickly and patch up. It's called sometimes called patch-like meditation, patch-like concentration. So when you're doing retreat, if you're spending some time, even if it's just a 1 week or 2 week or a month retreat, a couple of months retreat, that's not uncommon, I think, to develop the third level like that. One of the teachers in England said that when asked what level he had attained, supposedly he had attained Shine before, but he was being humble, and he said, "Oh, I think I've probably attained the fourth level at least, because anyone who's meditated for some years conscientiously, say, doing a daily practice should have been able to develop that level. So the fourth level is called close placement. Here it says you're able to focus your mind on the meditation object by generating strong recollection. This is superior to the previous three levels in that the meditation object no longer escapes from your mind, because you've got very strong, here it says recollection or mindfulness. But still, sinking and excitement still do take place, so you have to apply their antidotes. So this is like you can stay on the object without losing it, so you don't have to patch it up any longer. Before you'd lose the object, but you'd patch it up right away. Now, excitement, your periods are more continuous. The patching is very infrequent. So then, yeah.
I say third and fourth levels, is the image still not completely, that's still not completely clear? Or does the clarity increase?
I think probably this first level, the object is clear when you have it. Maybe when you talk about the second level or the third level, the object is clear. Just getting a clear image of the object, I think, is a little bit like finding the object. That's even before the first level. So if the object's not clear, that's because we haven't developed enough familiarity with it. So I think to say that you could develop the second or third or fourth level without having, clear visualization, there'd be, like you say, well, I don't quite see his arms yet, or, I don't see the robes ever, I just see a sort of light in front, and I concentrate on that. Then you wouldn't be concentrating on the object. You wouldn't have found the object yet. You have to, the first, before attaining the first level, you have to find the object. And in a sense, that's like zero before Keith's -1. Okay? Just finding the object. So you have to, through analysis, through thinking about it, visualizing it again and again, get a clear image, and it's that you're going to concentrate on. That will get a little more clear as time goes on.
Sometimes it seems like what happens is, when I go through the analysis, I'll get an image of it, but when I try to focus on it, pieces will just dissolve.
Oh, that's different. Yeah.
And,
that's different. Your question was that you didn't have the image. If you're visualizing for some time, it can be, I think, on the first couple of levels, or at least on the first level and the second level, perhaps you have the object in mind, but one part of the shoulder begins to disappear, and then the ear disappears, or then maybe comes back and something else disappears. Again, you may have found the object, but because of not being familiar enough with it, different parts of it may fade in and out. But I'm not sure. I would imagine that by the patch-like third level that you wouldn't have that kind of fading in and out. That would be sort of like on the first level. But even then, you're talking about someone who's found the object, right? And it's just a matter that sometimes it's there and sometimes part of it begins to disappear.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
wondering about the clarity, because you said earlier, be satisfied with what you get. And
At the beginning, yeah, because we're not yet at the first level.
getting.
We're talking about, I'm saying, don't confuse it. Saying at the beginning, you have to be satisfied in order to try to develop that first placement of the mind. You have to be satisfied with what you have. If you're demanding to have in your mind a clear visualization before you concentrate, you'll never put any practice, any effort into actually holding the mind single-pointedly on the object. In Lama Tsongkhapa's Middling Lan Rim, and in other texts on this, it says this is the essential point. when reading a translation of that, I had underlined only 2 sentences in the whole book. And one of my Dharma friends, who is here, Venerable Rene, he's not here right at the moment, but he's coming to the teachings. He read the book that I'd lent him my copy of the translation, and he was very pleased afterwards because he's done a lot of meditation retreat. And he said, I think, we're on the same wavelength. Those are the exact same sentences in the whole book I would have underlined. That's the essential point. One of the points was, be satisfied with what you have at the beginning, because you have to concentrate on something. If you're only analyzing again and again, you never get to the point of placing the mind. Yeah? Okay. So let's just finish this very quickly. We're not at these levels yet, but 5th level, subduing. During the 4th level, if you tried hard to draw your mind inward to keep it focused, there's a great danger of the mind sinking. So now you start to, on this 5th level, the main obstacle is subtle sinking, or as it calls it here in this translation, languor. So you still have to have the mental factor alertness to recognize that, and to use the antidotes to enliven the mind. And there were various things that were mentioned. As I said, if you're familiar with the Lan Rim, to think about things that enliven the mind, how fortunate we are to have a perfect human rebirth, the great benefits of developing bodhicitta, our gurus and so forth. To calm the mind down when it's excited, on the other hand, you use things that are more sobering, like death and impermanence and the suffering nature of cyclic existence and so forth. Not many people are their minds are not enlivened by that so much, but maybe it depends. Okay. The 6th level, pacification. This is just reviewing in your mind, because this is what Rinpoche had finished last time. If the effort to enliven the mind on the 5th level was too forceful, this increases the likelihood of developing subtle excitement. So on the 5th level, you have the main obstacle, subtle sinking, where you lose the clarity or the strength of clarity of the object. You still have the object there. Now, when you've squeezed the mind too much, there's the possibility of excitement, subtle excitement. So you don't lose the object completely, but some of your mental energy is thinking about something else. So the example that was given in the text earlier was that the process of developing tranquil abiding is like tuning a stringed instrument. Sometimes you tune it a little too tight, and then you have to loosen it, and then you have to tighten it again and loosen it. And I think Chandra Gomin or some of the other, there's some quotations of famous meditators of the past bemoaning the fact how difficult it was to find that proper balance. If the mind is too loose, if your attention is too loose, you can start to develop sinking. You lose the clarity. If you tighten up to try to get the clarity, excitement can take place. Even though you've got the object, you can have subtle excitement. So your mind can be started engaging in other, part of your mental energy can be going into other thought patterns. So 5th and 6th, our main obstacles are sinking and excitement. 7th level, enhanced pacification. Here it says, because one fully develops recollection, mindfulness, and introspection during the 7th level, these two, sinking and excitement, do not occur easily. It still can occur, but not easily. So you have enhanced pacification. So you have to strive to abandon both subtle sinking and excitement, and develop a powerful form of effort. The difference between this level and the previous two is that here you do not have to be as concerned about developing subtle sinking and subtle excitement as you did on the previous levels. You have to still use effort to eliminate them, but you don't have to worry so much. And then on the 8th level, you only need to generate a slight degree of effort to maintain the antidote of mindfulness. The antidote of mindfulness is an antidote of what? forgetting the object, right? So you only have to generate a little bit of, you only have to put a little bit of effort into that. And on the ninth level, is ninth level fully qualified tranquil abiding? What do you have to do on the ninth level? You have to, the antidote, well, what's the fault that's overcome on the ninth level? Do you remember? Pardon? Over-application, and that's overcome by equanimity. Equanimity, which is a mental factor. Those of you who are doing mind and mental factors, remember, it's one of the 11 virtuous mental factors, that when you no longer have to put effort into introspection or alertness, if you were to put effort into that, you're not going to be able to put the culmination into developing tranquil abiding. So you have to let go of, when you're coasting, you no longer have to put effort into that. You put all your energy into concentration, and you develop pliancy, physical and mental pliancy, and physical and mental bliss. And those are the signs then, when those subside, those are the signs finally that one is about to achieve calm abiding. So our interpreter has just arrived. It's just about 15 minutes before class. So let's take a break. Let's just briefly dedicate the merits. Due to these merits, may we and all sentient beings quickly develop calm abiding and penetrative insight, special insight, to be able to use it on the supramundane path that realizes emptiness that Rinpoche will be teaching today, to overcome our delusions, to become less harmful to others, less needy, to find ultimate peace ourselves, and to achieve Buddhahood, to be able to benefit all sentient beings.